Snow screamed across the empty white. The team stood still. Their lights shook in their hands. In the ice wall ahead, a line was visible. It was a door. It was too straight to be natural, too clean for this wild place. Black stone, no seams, no hinges, yet it hummed. Their radios stuttered. Batteries drained. The compass spun. The wind slowed and changed direction. It blew in, toward the door, as if the ice itself began to breathe. Someone whispered a name. No one owned that voice. The ice replied with a faint knock. They took one step closer. The door warmed under. A glove. The glove began to steam in the cold. Then the line moved. It widened. A whisper of warm air touched their faces. They came to Antarctica to map a ridge. Instead, they found a doorway that should not exist. And something inside already knew their names. The plane came low over the white. The pilot spoke in short words. Wind. Cross-current. Ice fog. The team did not talk much. They watched the map. They watched the snow. The station was a row of red boxes on steel legs. It looked small in the wide land. The door opened. Heat rushed out. Cold rushed in. Boots thumped. Frozen air burned lungs. Dr. Lena Mora led the team. She was quiet. She liked the sound of nothing. She liked clean lines and hard facts. Antarctica gave both. Till this day, the satellite image had shown a shadow on a blue face of ice. The line was straight. Too straight. The call went out. The station sent a small team. They were to check it. They were to say it was a crack. They were to say it was wind-carved. They were to say anything normal. They rode snow machines across. Hard snow. The sky was gray metal. The sun was a white coin behind it. The horizon was a blade. Their breath made small clouds. The motors were the only sound. The ice face rose like a frozen ocean wave. Blue, deep, and old. The line they saw from orbit was there. It was not a crack. It was not windwork. It was a door. That was the word the mind chose. Door. It stood at man height and more. Black stone, smooth as glass. It did not shine, and it drank. The light, the ice around it, was clear like frozen smoke. It held bubbles from another age. Mateo Ruiz, the engineer, put his hand near it. Warm, he said. His voice sounded wrong here. Too loud, too small. Yara Singh, the pilot, stepped back. She looked up at the sky. She said nothing. O'Neill checked the compass. The needle swung like a tail. He shook it. It spun again. He clicked the radio. Base. We are at target. It is artificial. The radio said nothing back. Just a hush. Just a thin hiss like breath. Dr. Chen set the thermal camera. The screen showed a ghost. Black stone glowed pale, like skin under thin light. Warmer than ice, not hot, not cold. Live somehow, they marked the area. They set small lamps. The wind blew fine snow like dust. The lamps made halos in it. The door did not change. It just existed there, wrong in this place. Night was a word. Here, the sun circled. Light changed, but did not vanish. Still, at the station, they called it night. At night, the hum began. It was faint. It was lower than hearing. It was the feeling of a train far away. It was a weight in the ribs. Lena stood close and listened with her bones. She raised a gloved finger. She touched the seam. The seam felt soft, not in texture, in meaning. Felt like a mouth kept closed. The wind shifted. It began to pull, not hard. Like breath in, out, in again. The team held their masks and watched the line. Snow snakes twisted at their boots. Ice dust rose and hung. Small light moved inside the ice. It was red at first, like an ember. Then it cooled to gold. It slid along the seam. It traced the outline of the door. It drew it like a child with a glowing pen, Mateo filmed. The screen jittered. The battery bar fell fast. It's draining, he said. He swapped a pack. The new pack fell too. Out. The door drank that too. O'Neill spoke a name. It came out before. He knew it, Eliza. He looked startled. I did not mean to say that, he said. His eyes were wet. He wiped them. His glove froze stiff. Lena took a breath. "We stepped back," she said. They did. They watched the gold line. It stopped. At the top, it shook once. It smoothed. It was complete. Something knocked. It was very soft. The sound came from the ice, not from stone, from the space behind it. Small, close. Patient, the lamps flickered. The hum grew by one small notch. Not loud, just more there. Like a star, a person. Finally notices. The seam changed. It became a hairline gap. Black to deeper black. Not open, not closed. Choice, a risk. They stood in the white and blue and black. They felt the old world press close. The door waited. It knew they would return. At the next low light, they would dot. What would it show if it opened more? They came at low light again. The air felt heavy. Sky was the color of a bruise. The door waited with its thin gold line. The hum was in their ribs again, stronger now. It's familiar now. They brought a small drone. It was a tough unit. It could fly in a fridge. It could carry a lamp and a mic. Mateo checked it twice. He checked it a third time. He taped the battery door. He blessed it without words. They set a tent like a shell by the ice face. Inside, they had a table, a screen, a kettle that hissed, and maps with notes. Lines led to the door and away from it. The away lines had question marks. The drone lifted. It buzzed and wobbled in the wind. Mateo made it hold steady. He brought it to the seam. The lamp on its nose cut a sharp slice of light. Yara spoke slow. "If it opens, we do not step inside. We send the drone. Keep a line on it." Her eyes stayed on the seam. "We do not lose people to a door." Lena nodded. She had a rope on her waist. It was silly here, but it made the hands calm. The rope trailed and coiled like a small animal at her feet. The knock came again. 1, 2. A pause. 3. It felt like code. It felt like someone who did not rush. The gold line brightened. The seam widened 1 finger width. Warm air slid out. It smelled like a cave. It smelled like iron. It smelled like rain on hot stone. This was wrong. It should smell like nothing. It should smell like cold. Mateo eased the drone in. The lamp swam in the gap. Snow dust hung like a curtain and then fell. The mic hissed. Then it heard something else. A slow beat. Not a heart. A machine heart. Or a drum in a deep room. Regular. Patient. The feed showed a slope, not stairs. Ramp. Black stone. Not rough. Not polished. It drank the light. The edges were clean and cruel. Symbols lined the ramp. They were not letters. They were shallow cuts that made the eye want to blink. Stars, lines, arcs, shapes that looked like orbits. Shapes that looked like maps, if maps could be sad. O'Neill wrote them fast in his notebook. His hand shook. He wrote a name again, without wanting to. Eliza. He crossed it out. He wrote the symbol below it. The symbol looked like a circle, not closed. The drone's mic picked a whisper. It was wind. But it was not wind. It said something that felt like a name. Not a human language, not their words. But their minds heard the meaning. It felt like someone calling the person that was most lost inside them. Dr. Chen breathed hard. He did not know why. He looked at his hands. They were not steady. He put them under his legs and sat on them like a boy. The drone went deeper. The ramp turned. The camera showed a wall now. The wall wore carvings. They were arranged in rings. The inner ring was a set of small dots. The outer ring was lines like rivers. There were 7 breaks in the outer ring. The breaks had tiny marks. Each break looked like a door. Mateo's battery bar fell again. He frowned. He checked the cable. He knew it was fine. The door took power. It took heat. It took names. The mic brought a new sound. It was a soft laugh. It was a child laugh. Then it bent. It turned into the scrape of stone on stone. It turned into the sound of ice cracking across a lake. turned into a mother saying the first name of her child when she is scared. Lena said, "Stop at the next bend." The drone stopped. It turned its lamp down. The floor was black. It's not stone here. Not metal. A skin of something like glass. Under it, waves moved very slowly. They were not water. They were light like oil. They rolled in patterns that matched the carvings on the wall. They moved when the people breathed. They moved like they felt them. O'Neill's radio clicked on by itself. A voice spoke. It was his mother. She had been dead 7 years. She said his name. She said it once. She said it in the exact way she used to wake him as a boy. He froze. He did not cry. Could not. Yara reached and turned his radio off. Looked at her. He nodded once. His eyes were wet again. He did not wipe them this time. The ramp leveled. Black shape crouched there. For 1 second, it looked like a person on their knees. Then the lamp moved and showed a structure. It was a frame like ribs around a hollow. It faced the ramp. It was aimed at anyone who would walk in. It was a scanner or a gate or a mouth. That would measure the shape of a soul. The drone hovered. The mic heard the beat again. It matched Lena's heart now. She knew that without touching her chest. She felt the count. She wished she did not. A shadow passed across the floor. There was nothing to cast it. The shadow stopped. The lamp dimmed. The battery fell to red. Mateo swore under his breath. He lowered the drone. He held the stick on land. He felt there was no land to hold. The seam began to close. The gold line cooled to amber. The warm air thinned. Smell faded. The beat slowed. The drone backed fast. It scraped the seam. Prop clipped ice. It slipped. Mateo caught it with a jerk. The lamp blinked. The feed broke 2 gray blocks in static. The seam closed. The gold went out. The black turned to black. Again, flat and mute. The hum dropped 1 notch. Snow came back and moved like it had never stopped. They stood there in their red coats. They looked like small toys in the big white. They had a ramp and symbols and a scanner and a black mouth. They had a beat that knew their hearts. They had a voice that knew their dead. They did not have answers. They had a door that chose when to breathe. They had a fear that felt old and patient and kind in a way that made it worse. What would the door show if it opened all the way? Back at the station, the wind shook the walls. The kettle clicked. The lights dimmed and brightened like a tired blink. The team spread the images on screens. They moved them with slow hands. Dr. Chen traced the rings on the wall from the feed. He counted the breaks. 7. He marked each with a red dot on his tablet. He did not like the number. He did not know why. Lena pulled old records. She called archives. She read files with missing pages. She found a Soviet log from 1962. It was short. It spoke of a black wedge in the ice. It spoke of soft radio knocks. Then the ink stopped. The last page was torn. YARA found A. Note in a private climbers forum from 1998. A team had filmed a cave that breathed warm. They had lost their film. They had lost a man. They had left the continent. The post had one comment. "Do not touch it," the comment said. The user never posted again. O'Neill drew the symbol that looked like a circle not closed. He had drawn it before. He had drawn it as a child. He remembered now. He'd seen it on a hill near his boyhood home. He had thought it was kids' paint. He had thought it was nothing. Mateo cleaned the drone. He found ice flecks on the prop. The ice flecks were not water ice. They did not melt in his palm. They turned into vapor and left a sweet smell. He washed his hands. The smell stayed for hours. The aurora came. It danced over the station like slow fire. It made a ring, then a spiral, then 7 spokes like a wheel. The team went outside and stared with their mouths open. The sky did not care. It moved with old grace. The satellite feed showed new data. Heat maps from far under the ice. A lake. A long black line beside it like a scar. The line ran true for miles. It turned once at a clean angle. It ended in a bright point like a lit nailhead. Dr. Chen said, "This is not a melt channel." He said, "This is not a fault." He said, This is a thing that was made. The words felt hard in his mouth. They sent a radar pulse from the station. The reply came back strange. It had a pattern. It had a beat. It matched the beat from the door. It matched Lena's heart again. It matched O'Neill's. When he thought of his mother, Lena stopped the test. She looked at the map. She saw how the line on the map matched the ring on the wall. The breaks were doors, maybe. The bright points were pits. Gates, joints. The words did not fit. They took a small sample from the ice near the seam. It was clearer than glass. Under a light, the sample showed threads. They were not cracks. They were fibers. They were in a weave. The ice wore a woven skin. It had been grown, not just frozen. Matteo put the sample near a magnet. The threads aligned. They were tiny. They were many. They moved like hair in wind. He felt sick. Someone made the ice, Yara said. She said it in a flat voice. She did not like saying it. She did not like the thought that ice could be made like cloth. The station's clock lagged. Then it rushed. Then it lagged again. Time felt like a line pulled and let go. Pulled and let go. The door had a hand on the line. A noise came from the snow outside. It was not wind. It was a step. Then 2. Then 7. The step stopped by the wall. The wall creaked like an old ship. The snow against the wall slid down in a clean sheet. Lena opened the door and stepped out. The cold grabbed her throat. The sky was a green ribbon. The snow glittered like salt. There were prints in it. Bare prints. Small. Child small. They began at the wall. They ended 10 steps away. They did not come from anywhere. They did not go anywhere. She called the others. They stood in a ring around the prints. They spoke no words. O'Neill bent. He put his glove near one. Heat bled from it. The print was not ice. It was warm snow. The warmth was fading now. It faded like a breath taken back. They followed the prints to the end. There was nothing there. Nothing but a sound. Faint tap. 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 It came from under the snow. It came from the direction of the door, though they could not see it from here. They slept in turns. They did not sleep well. The hum came into their dreams. It moved their hands in the air. It wrote symbols in the frost on the window. In the morning, the symbols were real. They could wipe them with a sleeve. A new satellite pass came. It showed another straight line, far to the east, another bright point at its end. The analyst wrote in a note, "Secondary anomaly resembles doorway imprint." The word doorway felt like a joke now. It felt too small, so there were 2. Maybe more. The ring on the wall had 7 breaks. They had found 2. The map under the ice might be a circuit. It might be a path. It might be a net over the whole pole. The radio came alive. A voice spoke in Russian. It was old. It was from 1962. It said, "We are inside. It is warm. The stars are wrong." Then it cut. Static tasted like copper. Lena looked at the team. Their faces were pale. Their eyes were bright. They were afraid. They were more than afraid. They were curious. It was the worst part. It pulled harder than fear pushed. They went back to the door. The seam was black and mute. The gold line was gone. The wind was back to its normal, cruel self. The compass behaved like a good dog now. The door had gone to sleep. But the prints in the snow at the station had no snow inside them. The wind had not filled them. The shape stayed. 10 small steps. Then a stop. What would they find if the other door woke first? The days did not feel like days anymore. The sun spun, the sky dimmed, the sky brightened, but time had lost shape. The prints outside the station did not vanish. Each time they looked, they were still there. 10 small steps, pressed into snow that should have blown away long ago. It was as if the world itself guarded them. Inside, the team grew restless. They ate in silence, stirred powdered soup, filled notebooks with sketches of symbols, and rewound the broken drone footage until their eyes blurred. The hum followed them into sleep, then into waking. Sometimes Lena woke in the middle of the night, certain that someone was knocking on the steel wall of the station. Soft, patient, measured. Why? ARA wanted to leave. She said it plainly. "We call the plane. We fly out. We log this as anomaly. Let someone else deal with it. Her voice was low, but the anger was sharp. This isn't our job. We don't touch this. But O'Neill shook his head. His face was pale, his eyes too bright. If we leave, the door stays. If we leave, it waits. You know it does. And it will open for someone else. Lena stayed quiet. She looked down at her hands. She could still feel the warmth of the stone under her glove from the first day. She could still feel the steam rising in the cold. Dr. Chen broke the silence. He turned the screen toward them. I mapped the 7 breaks from the carvings. If I overlay them on the radar scans, he pressed a key. 7 points lit up across the ice sheet, a pattern spread across Antarctica like a necklace. The door we found is only 1, or 6 more, and if you connect them... The line drew itself across the map. It was not random. It was precise. A ring. A circle closed around the pole. Annette Mateo leaned in. It's a design. His voice was flat. It's a system. No one spoke after that. The heater clicked. Outside, the wind howled as if it had heard them. The next evening, the hum grew again, louder. This time, it was not just in the ribs. It was in the floor. The steel under their boots shivered with it. The lights swayed. The prints outside filled with frost, then cleared again, as if an invisible hand brushed them clean. They went back to the ice face. The seam was there. Not glowing, not warm, but the air around it felt strange. The snow blew past in sharp lines, yet no drift touched the base of the door. The space in front of it was clean, as if the world made a small stage for them. Lena placed her gloved hand against it again. Cold this time. Dead. Then a pulse. 1 beat. The warmth came back under her palm. The seam brightened. That gold? This time, blue, pale, like a buried star. It traced the outline again, slow and careful. The hum shifted to match it. A low chord, rising, falling, rising again. The door opened, not wide. Stretched enough for a person to slip through sideways. Warm air poured out. It carried that smell again. Stone, iron, and something sharper, like burned copper. The snow hissed as the heat touched it. Steam rose in the white. They froze. No one moved. The opening was blacker than black. A mouth with no teeth, no tongue, but still a mouth. Drone, Lena said. Her voice was steady. Her fingers shook. Mateo had a smaller unit ready. He launched. Its lamp flickered but held. It drifted through the gap. The feed came up on the screen strapped to his wrist. The ramp was there again, but the light caught something new. The carvings glowed faint blue now, as if the door's seam had woken. They shimmered, like rivers of ice. The ramp led deeper, down into a throat of stone. Symbols lined the wall in rings, but in the blue light, they moved. They shifted like slow liquid. A circle bent. A line curved. The 7 breaks closed, then opened again, then closed once more. The map itself was alive. The drone turned. The scanner ribs crouched in the dark. But now, they pulsed faintly with the same blue glow. They opened and closed like lungs. The hum came louder from there. The drone hovered. Its mic picked up whispers again. Clearer now. Not one voice. Many. A chorus. Some laughed. Some cried. Some spoke words that sounded like the team's names. O'Neill's notebook slipped from his hand. His name was being spoken inside his head. Again and again, the feed stuttered. The lamp dimmed. The seam behind the drone narrowed. Pull it back, Yara snapped. Her hands curled into fists. Mateo tried. The drone fought him. The stick trembled. It wanted to go forward, not back. Dragged it in reverse, inch by inch. The scanner's glow flared. The ribs began to close. The seam at the door narrowed further. The opening was shrinking. The drone shot back at the last second. The seam sealed. The blue glow went out. Stone was mute again. Mateo caught the drone out of the air. It was hot. Too hot. He dropped it into the snow. Steam hissed as the frost touched it. Silence. Only the wind. Only their own breath. They looked at each other. No one spoke. No one wanted to be the first. Then O'Neill bent, picked up his notebook, and showed them the page he had written earlier. The symbol of the broken circle was there, except now on its own it had closed. A full circle, drawn in his own hand. He had not done it. The ink was still wet. They stared at it. The circle glistened. In the low light, something had finished the drawing for him. What would happen if the circle closed on the ice map itself? The night came restless. The wind never stopped. It howled around the red station like a predator circling prey. Inside, the team spoke in low voices. They kept the heaters high, yet each of them felt a chill deeper than cold. Lena studied the map again. 7 doors. One already open and closing at will. 6 more waiting. She drew the circle around them. The circle was clean, precise, impossible. It was not nature. It was not chance. Then it's a design, she whispered. No, O'Neill said. His hands rubbed together, restless. It's a lock. We found one keyhole. The others are the same. And when all of them open, he trailed off. His eyes went to the prints outside the station. They were still there. 10 steps, then nothing. Dr. Chen frowned at the data. Signals have spread, he said. Look, he pointed. At the screen, the hum now pulsed across the continent. Their instruments caught beats from under the ice thousands of kilometers away. The rhythm was no longer one door. It was many. They were answering each other. ARA slammed her cup down. That's it, we're done. We're not unlocking anything. Her voice cracked. We leave tomorrow. But even as she spoke, the radios came alive. Static hissed, then a voice not English, not Russian. Something older. The syllables were sharp, like stone on stone. And yet, inside their minds, each of them felt the meaning. East. Now, east. The feed died. The lights flickered. East, Lena repeated. She tapped the map. The second bright point. A place marked as an empty ridge, nothing but ice and storm. The second door. They left at first light, though light meant little here. Snow machines roared into the pale morning. The sky was a white lid. The air was sharp as glass. The horizon never changed. Only snow, only ice, endless and cruel. Hours passed. Their shadows stretched on the snow like thin scars. Sometimes the machines sputtered. The fuel gauges dipped faster than normal. Mateo cursed under his breath. It's draining them too, he said. He did not need to say what it was. Finally, the ridge rose ahead, a wall of ice tilted against the horizon. And there, like before, it's the line. Straight, too straight, the second door. This one was taller, narrower. The seam glowed faint even before they reached it. Not gold, not blue, this time green, pale as sea glass. The hum was louder here. Ground shook in slow breaths. They parked the machines far back. The air near the door felt thick like syrup. Their movements slowed as they came close, as if time dragged. Lena lifted her camera. The lens fogged, though the air was dry. She wiped it and tried again. The green seam pulsed, bright, dim, bright again, like an eye half open. It's already. Awake, Dr. Chen said. O'Neill stepped forward. He froze. His hand went to his chest. His heart beat too fast. He fell to his knees. Yara caught him by the arm. His eyes rolled. He gasped a name. Eliza, he whispered. The seam widened. Warm vapor slid out, sweet and sharp. The smell was stronger here, not stone this time, not copper. Something floral, cloying, like flowers that had never known the sun. Inside, the ramp sloped down. Symbols glowed green. They twisted into shapes that looked like constellations. Lena's stomach turned. The constellations were not of Earth. The stars were wrong. The drone was ready. Mateo sent it in. Its lamp shook against the carvings. The mic caught whispers again. Clearer voices calling, not random, not nameless. Each of them heard someone different. Dr. Chen heard his sister. She had died 10 years ago. She was laughing now. A laugh that turned into weeping. Yara heard her father. He was calling her name the way he had in her childhood, firm and steady. Her hands shook on the rope at her waist. Lena heard no one, only silence. It was worse than voices. The drone turned the first bend. There was no scanner rib here. Instead, a hall. Long, straight. The walls were smooth and green-lit, and at the far end, a shape stood. It was not machine, not stone. It was a figure, human. An outline too tall, too thin, its arms reached to the ground, its head tilted. Stood still, waiting. The lamp on the drone flickered. The feed shook. For a moment, the figure was gone. Then it was closer, closer again. Each flicker, it moved without moving. The seam outside narrowed. The team shouted. Mateo pulled the drone back hard. The figure blurred. Closer, closer still. The last image was of its face. Not a face, only smooth black stone where a face should be. Then the feed cut. The seam slammed shut. The green glow vanished. They were left in silence. Only the wind. Only the hum fading back into the ice. Y-A-R-A. Cursed and tore off her gloves. We're done. Do you hear me? That thing was waiting. It knew we were coming. She shoved O'Neill, who still gasped on the ground. It called you, and you led us here. O'Neill stared at his notebook. He had written again without knowing. The circle symbol. It's time two of them linked. It's both closed, the second door. Had joined the first. The map was completing itself. Lena looked east again. 6 doors. 2 awake. 5 still waiting. And something was counting. What would rise when the 7th door opened? The frozen valley lay silent, yet the silence itself felt alive. The doorway, smooth, black, and perfectly rectangular, had not changed since they first found it. No carvings, no locks, no visible way to open it. But that morning, as the storm cleared and the ice crystals glittered in the pale sunlight, something new happened. A faint hum was low, steady, like a deep vibration inside the earth itself. The sound did not echo through the air. It traveled through the bones of anyone. Standing close, Dr. Keller froze. Sanchez gripped his parka, his teeth rattling. The team felt as if the doorway had just taken a breath. The instruments went crazy again. Compasses spun wildly. The drones they tried to send inside the valley dropped one after another, crashing. Without warning, as though an invisible wall was frying their systems, the scientists couldn't explain it. Keller whispered, "It's awake." No one laughed this time. Soldiers shifted uneasily. Even men who had trained for war now looked like children in front of something ancient and unknown. They were supposed to be in control. But it was clear now they were the ones being watched. At midday, the sunlight hit the doorway at a sharp angle. For the first time, a shimmer appeared across its surface. The black stone was no longer dead. It rippled like water, as if the sunlight unlocked something hidden. The reflection did not show the valley behind them. Instead it showed nothing. A depthless void. As if the doorway was no longer a wall, but a pool leading into endless darkness. Keller stepped closer, her breath fogging in the freezing air. Sanchez pulled her back. "Don't." His voice cracked, but Keller could not look away. The doorway pulsed, almost in rhythm with her heartbeat. She felt it pulling her mind forward, like a whisper asking her to step in. Then came the strange sound. Not the hum from before this was sharper, like a chorus of voices speaking at once, in a language no one could understand. They didn't come from the doorway. They came from inside the heads of the team. Each man and woman clutched their temples, groaning in pain. The voices rose, faster, louder, overlapping, as if 100 lost civilizations were trying to speak through them. The soldiers dropped their weapons. One man screamed until he fainted in the snow. The sound stopped only when Sanchez shouted, something in his own tongue, a desperate prayer to God. Suddenly the valley was quiet again, the doorway returning to its still, black form. But everyone knew the voices had left something inside them. That night they camped farther from the doorway than ever before. No one wanted to sleep near it. They built a fire against the bitter cold, though the flames gave little comfort. Each of them avoided speaking of what they had heard. but their silence was heavier than words. In the shadows of the fire, Keller scribbled in her journal. Her hand shook so badly that the ink bled across the page. She wrote that the voices were not only sounds, they carried images, quick flashes of strange cities, impossible machines, skies filled with constellations no human had ever mapped. She wrote that the doorway was not simply a passage. It was a warning. But a warning of what? She didn't know. At midnight, the ground trembled again. Soft quake, almost like footsteps beneath the ice. The fire flickered. The soldiers grabbed their rifles. But what could bullets do against stone and shadows? The quake stopped as suddenly as it began. Then came a new sight, thin cracks spreading across the ice floor around the doorway. They glowed faintly, as though fire ran beneath them. Shapes they made were not random. They looked like symbols, giant runes carved into the glacier itself, hidden for centuries under the snow. Now, they burned bright orange, pulsing slowly. Like the heartbeat of the earth, the team stared in horror. The valley itself was alive. Sanchez muttered that they should leave. Now, before it was too late. But Keller's obsession had grown too strong. She argued that this was the greatest discovery in human history. We are standing in front of something not of this world, she said, her eyes wide with feverish light. If we leave, the world may never know. If we stay, maybe we learn who built this. Her words shook the others. Half wanted to run, half wanted to stay. But the truth was none of them knew if they could escape at all. The doorway had already touched their minds. It had already chosen them. Just before dawn, one of the younger soldiers disappeared. His footprints led straight toward the doorway, stopping just a few feet before the black surface. There were no signs of struggle, no trail leading back. It was as if the doorway had swallowed him whole. Panic spread through the camp. No one had seen him leave his tent. No one had heard a thing. They searched until their bodies froze, but there was nothing to find. The valley was empty, silent, waiting. When the sun finally rose, the doorway shimmered again. This time, it did not show darkness. It showed a landscape vast, alien, filled with mountains that curved like claws, skies glowing with two suns, and rivers of silver light. The soldier was not gone. He was on the other side, standing motionless on a cliff, staring at the team through the doorway. His face was blank. His eyes were wide. And then, in a single blink, he was gone again. The surface rippled, closing into black stone. The valley fell silent once more. But the team no longer wondered what the doorway was. They now asked the real question: what waited beyond it?